Well, hello there and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Emmy and I love making videos for you guys about budget grocery hauls and also cooking healthy, simple things on a budget. You do not need fancy gadgets to eat simply, healthily and on a budget. So if you like that kind of stuff, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. A couple of weeks ago, I did a budget grocery challenge and eating for one person for 1 week. And you all really liked that series, and it's linked below both how I set the challenge up and what I cooked. So I ate for $7 a day, spoiler alert, but head down to the description below and I will have those videos linked for you. But many of you said in the comments that you would love to see me do that for 2 people, which is exactly what I set up to do in this challenge. So in the previous video before this one, which I will link up here and down below, I set up this challenge. I headed to the grocery store and did some shopping and got ready to feed myself and my husband for a whole week, 7 days worth of food, healthy, yummy, tasty food. So now it's time to get cooking and see what we're gonna make this week. I'm gonna be showing you a bunch of the recipes. Some of them I've made here on the channel before, but please do tag along, give this video a like and a thumbs up, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you want to see how this ends up. I will also do a summary at the very end of this video, how the challenge went, how we found it, and with a verdict from my husband if this was a nice challenge for him or not. So without further ado, let's dive in. So because I am using these ingredients for several different meals, it's important to do a quick stock take to see what you've got and what needs to be divided up. So I'm going to be meal prepping a couple of things up front, but what I've done here is I've divided my potatoes out for the 3 potato-based dishes, so I know that I have enough for us and also to be able to up the side vegetables if needed. This ham I'm going to be using for 3 different things, so I'm going to cut this into 2 larger and 1 smaller section and cube up and store this in my fridge. And same thing for this mince. I actually am using this for 3 separate dishes, so I'm going to divide that up now so that I have everything ready. This cheese as well is getting used sparingly because it's only 250 grams. So I'm going to grate most of this up and store in a container in my fridge so that I can use it for the various things I'm making. This ginormous onion is also getting divided probably into quarters because it's going to go into a few different meals. And when it comes to the capsicum and the mushroom, they're going to be pretty much split in half for 2 separate dishes. So I'm going to go ahead and divvy that up now so that I have it all ready for the week, and I'm going to start prepping the first 2 meals now. Okay, so I have now divvied up, actually I have not portioned these out yet because I'm just going to divide these in 3 because I'm using them for 3 different recipes, similar with this one here. But with my cheese, that 250 grams, I grated up almost all of it. I kept a couple of slices on the side for our burgers, and I am doing a mini meatloaf type recipe that requires a cheese cube in the middle of the meatloafy thing. You'll see it later on in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and store this in the fridge as well. This is going to be for the kind of frittata egg slice that I'm doing for snacks this week, and then I took the larger 2 chunks and cubed them up for 2 different recipes. I've got my onions in quarters that I'll be using. One of them I'll actually be using now. This is for our burgers and this is for those mini meatloafs. So I divided my 500 grams of mince roughly into half, and then this is sort of half, 1/4 I'll be using now, and the other 1/4 I'll store in the fridge. But this can be really good if you're doing a budget challenge, just so you know that you have enough ingredients. So let's get cooking. So we're going to do a little bit of meal prepping now. So I've got my frittata ingredients over here, and I've got my soup ingredients over here. So for the soup, for both items, we're going to need a little bit of olive oil, but I've got about 1/4 of my 500 grams of beef mince here. I've got some carrots. I've got 1/3 of the mushrooms, and I cut these sort of slightly bigger, as you can see here. I've got some of my frozen green beans. I've got 1/4 of that very large onion. And I've got my 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I'm going to be adding some seasonings to this as well, salt and pepper of course, but I do have a few things here that I recommend that you use. This is the dish I'm going to use for the frittata, by the way, but I'm going to be using a little bit of minced garlic. You don't have to, this recipe is fine without it, but if you happen to have that on hand, bay leaves is also really nice in the soup, so I'm going to add 1 or 2 of them in when I simmer the soup. And I do have a little bit of beef broth. These are just the cubes, so I'm going to mix in 1 to 2 of these along with probably 1 to 2 cans of water, depending how soupy this gets. So those are my ingredients for the soup. And then over here we've got 6 of my 12 eggs that I'm going to whisk up with some full cream milk and some seasonings, mostly salt and pepper. These are 2 of the frozen spinach lumps that you get in that bag that I bought. So I'm just going to microwave these for 30 to 60 seconds and then kind of add them in. You'll see that later. Here we've got about 1/4 of my cup of my mushrooms, and I cut these a little bit smaller, and I also have 1/4 of my green capsicum. I love color, and I would have loved red capsicum, but it was a lot more expensive. And then we have quite a bit of the cubed ham here as well. So let's get cooking and prepping these couple of things. Alright, so it's dinner time and we are making burgers. So I've got the last of my mince in here along with some onion and some breadcrumbs. Again, you can obviously use your actual bread to make breadcrumbs if you wanted to. We're going to mix in 1 egg and some good old salt and pepper. And in terms of assembling our burgers, I've actually got wedges, potato wedges going in the oven as well, but I'm going to be using some of my gluten-free bread instead of burger buns. We got some cheese, we got some cut up onion here. And then we're just gonna do probably some tomato sauce, some lettuce, some mustard, and I've got some beetroot left. And this is maybe an Australian thing. Let me know if you're from somewhere else and you haven't heard about putting sliced beetroot in your burger, but it's something we sometimes do over here. So let's prep this up for dinner. Alright, so it's time to cook up 2 of my different budget meals, and I'm gonna get my oven down here going in just a second. So I figured I might as well do both of these at the same time. So this here is an oven bake. It's sort of like a potato gratin, or I don't know what some other countries call it, but it's super common in Sweden. So it's basically like a scalloped potato type thing. So we're gonna be using a quarter of my onion. Most of it's going to go in this dish, some of it will go in the tuna pasta bake, but most of this onion is for this. So we're going to pre-boil these potatoes, and then we're going to cut up the veggies. We'll cut up a third of my ham really small, so I'll probably dice it a bit smaller than this. I'll add a little bit of my minced garlic, which is totally optional, you don't need to include that. And we're going to use about a third of my green capsicum. The rest I'm going to use for salads. I've got all of my grated cheese here for all my recipes, so I have to be a little bit mindful. So I'm going to top both of these dishes with a little bit of grated cheese, but I'll be a little bit conservative. Secondly, we're going to do a tuna pasta bake, which is really simple. We're going to do the about half of this, maybe a little bit more than half of the bag of pasta, so I'm going to boil that in a second. We're going to use our entire can of tuna to make this nice and protein heavy. I'm going to be using a little bit of my frozen spinach and possibly some green beans. I haven't decided yet. I also found some pineapple hanging out in our fridge. I think we must have done pizzas a little while ago because we're pineapple on pizza people. We actually really like the pineapple with the tuna bake. I know it sounds really weird, but it has like a sweetness to it. So if you are a pineapple fan, try it. If not, I totally don't mind if you leave it out. But I had this in my fridge and I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm going to use it. And the magic ingredient to combine both this dish and make it nice and saucy is to do a sauce. Now you can get like a pasta sauce type thing, you can get a tuna bake sauce and use that as your shortcut. But you can do a really basic sauce if you have some butter in your house, some flour, I'm using gluten-free here that I had in the house, and then the milk that I bought. So I'm gonna do a bigger batch of this creamy sauce and I'll be using it for both of my dishes today. But first let's get boiling this pasta and let's start pre-boiling these potatoes, and I'll check in with you later. Okay, so we've got my pasta almost done in here. We've got my potatoes pre-boiling in here. They are almost done. You don't have to cook these all the way through, and it's okay for the pasta to be a bit al dente because we're gonna bake it in the oven. So here are my ingredients for the pasta bake. So essentially all we're gonna do with this one, here's my spinach that I've thawed in the microwave for about 30 to 45 seconds. Got my salt and pepper back there. So here are all the ingredients I'm going to mix with the pasta, and then I'm going to pour the sauce on top that I'm going to make in a second. And with the potatoes, they'll be done in about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to take them off the heat, drain them, and cut them up, which you'll see, and assemble them along with my smaller cubes of ham here in this baking dish. So we're going to do sliced potato. I've got my sliced onion, the rest of the mushroom, and a third of my capsicum. So I'll probably add a little bit of that garlic along with some salt and pepper. So I'm going to let this finish boiling, and then I'll show you how I make the sauce and assemble it all. And I've got my oven preheating on 200 degrees, and we will be cooking both dishes in the same oven on the same temperature. So we're actually getting ready to go camping. So here I've got my cooked pasta to make the pasta salad. I keep the gluten-free pasta, I find, can get a little bit dry if you mix it in with the salad too early. So I've just got the cooked pasta here, it's cooling, and it's got some olive oil on it. That's all there is. And then I've got some ingredients here to make up 4 portions of pasta salad. So I'm probably going to use about 1/3 to 1/2 a head of the iceberg lettuce. I've got some of my green capsicum, I've got a carrot, and I've got some corn, and I've got the rest of the grated cheese that I'm actually not going to need for anything else. I thought I might, but I actually have plenty. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this all up, and I'm going to serve it along with chicken. So we're going to do like a chicken pasta salad. We're also going to be using this for chicken toasties and maybe some other things. So this has just been cooking in my convection oven. I got this when it is plugged in and running, kind of looks like that. I got this for like 20 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. We use it all the time. It's brilliant. I could even bring this camping, but it's going to be really hot, so I wanted to cook up the chicken beforehand. So my chicken is ready to go, and I'm just going to go ahead and slice all this up, and then we're going to get ready to leave for our camping trip. Alright, so I've got my salad and my pasta back here going in the fridge in a second, and I'm going to mix up a quick salad dressing, which is one of my favorites. I'm going to use a little jar here. I'm going to put probably about a quarter of this jar with some white vinegar, the same for the olive oil, a little drizzle of honey, a bit of lemon juice, and just some salt and pepper. And then we're going to shake this up, and we're going to keep that dressing in the fridge until we're ready to serve. And this is one of my best camping tips of all time, is to pre-cut or pre-assemble your things, so you can just put them in your cooler, your esky, your fridge, whatever you have with you. I'm going to give this a shake before I assemble it at the campsite. So I'm going to add some pasta, some dressing, some lettuce in a bowl, and add some chicken on top, and that is a super simple, easy meal. Okay, so dinner tonight is going to be really simple. I have a quarter of my onion here. I have 2 eggs we're going to fry up. I've got, the eggs are rolling away here. I've got my potato cubed, very small. This is 4 of my potatoes. So this is the last of the, I think this is the last of my potato. I'll double check my pantry. I've got the last of my ham, which is cubed, about the same size as the potatoes. And I've got some sliced beetroot. This is a really simple Swedish dish. It's, I guess, easily translated to a potato hash, but it's called pyttipanna, and I used to have this all the time as a kid. So we're going to start cooking up the potatoes in either some butter, oil, whatever you have, to make them nice and soft, and then we're going to fry up the onion, the ham, and then finally we're going to fry up the eggs and serve it with some beetroot. This is a really comforting meal, really budget friendly and naturally gluten free. Okay, it's dinner time again, and I've got my oven preheating to 200 degrees and I've got my sheet pan ready. We're going to cook all of tonight's dinner on this one sheet. Hopefully it all fits. But I'm going to take you here into my pantry and show you what we're doing today. So we're going to do a mini meatloaf. The recipe to this comes from Julia here on YouTube. I will link the recipe down there below. It is a really good recipe. But I'm going to have to modify a few things because we're budget challenging it up. So the original recipe calls for frozen green beans and potato, but I threw in some carrot in here as well. So this is 1 carrot, a cup and a half or so of frozen green beans, and 1 large carrot. And I have just simply cut that up and tossed that in some olive oil. So I've been using olive oil, onion powder, salt and pepper. That's it. So this is going to go on my sheet pan. And then the only other thing we're going to do is make the mini meatloaf. So this is about half of my 500 grams of mince, so 250-ish grams. We're going to need minced garlic. You could use garlic powder if you don't have this. The recipe calls for yellow mustard. I don't have that, so I'm going to use Dijon. A little bit of Worcester sauce, a little bit of tomato ketchup, the cheese cubes. This recipe calls for mozzarella, which I know from having made it before that it melts much better. But this is tasty cheese, it's what we have, so let's see what we can do. We're going to need 1 of the eggs and our mince. Now this recipe is best with lean mince. This is 3-star mince, so it may not be quite as good as when I made it before. And then we're going to need some breadcrumbs. Now I have these gluten-free breadcrumbs in my cupboard. If you didn't have this at home, just toast a slice or so of your bread and make your own breadcrumbs. It's really, really easy. So we're just going to go ahead and mix this up and make our meatloaves. So that sums up the budget grocery challenge, and like I said in the previous video, this cost me $84 all up for the gluten-free ingredients, bread, etc. As well, and that works out to about $6 a day per person per day. So I'm pretty happy with that because as of November 2024, groceries sure are not cheap here in Australia. And whilst this was never designed to be an extreme budget challenge, you can bake your own bread. There's a heck of a lot of things you can do to push your grocery budget lower than what I have in this video. But this is really just designed to give you some ideas and some inspiration of stuff that you can make. You would have seen that we like potato in this household, so there were a lot of potato meals in there. Now, I really enjoyed all the meals that I made because selfishly, obviously, when you make a meal plan, you tend to pick things that you like to cook and to eat as well. But what about my husband? Well, he actually did not mind this challenge at all. His absolute favorite was the tuna pasta bake. He really liked that one. He did like the oven potato bake and the other things as well. They're kind of a rotation in our menu, especially for colder weather. So that worked out really, really well and he really liked it. And I did ask him in terms of snacks and things like that if he felt like there was enough food for the week, and he was quite happy with everything that we ate. And he kind of said at one point that this is pretty much how we eat normally anyway. So for him, this was not necessarily a budget challenge. I think the challenge more for the chef who's cooking and preparing the food is to make sure that you start your budget week by portioning out your ingredients so that you have enough of the different items in the various dishes that you're allocating. Normally for a week, it's very easy to just divide it up in containers or bags in your fridge and they will keep fresh for the week. Obviously, if you were going to do this challenge for a longer period, you can also freeze some ingredients so they stay fresher for longer. I did make a couple of minor tweaks from the original menu that I had planned for the week, including, for example, with the burgers, I was originally going to have a side salad, but I decided to do potato wedges because I actually had a little bit of potato left that I could use. So that's really the creative thing, I guess, about this, is that you can go through these challenges and alternate depending what you feel like. But all up, both my husband and I are really happy with this challenge, and as you would have seen, it does help to have good seasoning, some pantry items, a couple of things in your fridge, like sauces and stuff like that you can lean on to make these couple of different dishes. Most of the things here you can change. You can make them vegetarian, of course, if you're not a meat eater, and most things you can change out to only really use some basic oil and some basic seasoning. But it sure helps to have a few things on hand, and I have a video on things that I always keep in my fridge, freezer and pantry. I will link that video up here for you as well as down below, because it really helps to cook on a budget but also to make things really nice and flavorful. I hope you enjoyed this challenge. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to be cooking up any of these recipes, or if you have any great budget recipes that I should be trying, and I look forward to see you next week in the next video.